Hi, my name is attorney Walter Rudolph Hnot III. I'm with Disability Resolution PA, an Orlando, Florida-based Social Security disability law firm. So out of all the attorneys that do these videos, I've done more than any other attorney, or even all of them at this point, I believe, combined for Social Security disability tutorial videos. Something that a lot of disability attorneys do not focus on when making videos, because it's a lot about like how to win your disability benefits, the great tactics of winning, what are your trial tactics, what are this, how do you, it's all about how to win. I want to talk emotionally. I just did a video, I'll put it up later, but I want to talk emotionally about what happens when you get denied. I just did one about trial tactics with denial and what's your next appeal level and yada yada. Let's go into the emotions of what happens when you get denied. Okay, so when you get denied, you're angry, you're looking for somebody to blame. So who are your options to blame? You've got the administrative law judges, you've got the appellate administrative judges, you've got the attorney, you've got the clerk, you've got the people at the window at the SSA field offices, you've got all these different groups of people, vocational expert that you could potentially blame, right? Then you've got the systems. You've got the law firm system that you were utilizing. You've got the SSA system that you were utilizing. You've got, the jobs that screwed you over because of the system of reporting money. You've got all these systems, the medical doctors who didn't write in how severe you really are. They didn't understand it. The test didn't show it. Going after those. You have the emotional stance of, what do I tell all these people that thought I was going to be instantly found disabled? How is this going to work? What am I going to do with my life? There's that like social network, interaction experience problem. So you've got all these things to consider. And the first thing I'd like to say that when you get a denial, first assess it. Is it a medical denial, a technical denial? Is it a vocational denial? Like, what's the reason you got denied? If it's a medical denial, do the research with watching my other videos to explain what you can do to bolster your medical evidence. If it's a vocational denial, understand what the earning requirements are, understand how quotas of coverage work, things like that. You need to learn a little more. If it's a technical denial where you didn't show up for a CE, you didn't hand in forms, whatever, understand that they exist. And the bottom line is you really want to make sure that you get everything done in a timely fashion. When the denial occurs, and sometimes it's a screw up of a representative. I've seen a hell of a lot of big box firms, especially in Florida, go ahead and make mistakes. Now, the biggest mistakes that I receive, though, from people are not the claimants. It's usually the representatives that are social workers, case managers, whatever variant of that phrasing you want to use. Those tend to be the biggest whoopses I tend to see. The next group of people that make huge mistakes and then flub it up even more are the non-legal reps, meaning non-attorneys that claim that they're basically attorneys, just not attorneys, they're just doing what attorneys do. Have them write you a brief, one of those gigs. Those individuals are problematic. And, when you look at how we got from we're going to try and win this to we're going to try and scam the system to we're going to try, you can only win disability benefits nowadays the correct way. Otherwise, you'll get kicked off by a CDR and quickly. So the tactics that were used by these guys 15 years ago, not only are they illegal, some of them equate to jail time. Nearly all of them equate to, literally nearly all of them equate to an overpayment that where you have to pay the federal government back. And remember, that's the U.S. Treasury you have to pay back. They will get their money back. They will. You want to have a car? They'll get the car. You want to have a job? They'll call your job. They'll get the money back. So really the only way to win these claims nowadays is to properly do it. There are things you can do to bolster the likelihood of your success. It's like playing the credit game with credit cards and getting a mortgage and all that stuff. There's things that you can do to improve your overall standing, which is excellent, But the reality of this whole thing is that you have to win it the right way. showing that you're medically disabled, which equates to vocational inabilities. So who do we blame, right? We still want to blame somebody because somebody screwed up somewhere and we're pissed off, right? That's what we want. Who do we blame? The truth of the matter is sometimes you can say this person screwed up, right? Sometimes you can say it was this person, they're the butt, they're the idiot, they're the butthead, whatever. Almost always, I try to find where the error happened, and I just try and fix it with a lot of these cases I receive from other people. Blaming the person who screwed it up takes time, effort, money, energy, and I don't have that. I have so many clients at this point that, as you can see, I'm driving while making videos to still help you guys understand how this system works a little bit better. Because even though I'm in Florida, I've seen a national change, an overall American change as to their understanding of how this program works. The comments that you guys leave me, the phone calls I get, the emails, you guys are much more knowledgeable than you used to be. And a large part of that, I feel, is because of the tutorial videos that I put out there and how you guys are interacting with them. You're sucking up the information like a sponge and you're using it for your benefit. So in that regard, I'm super happy. My heart jumps with joy, and that's important because these are working for the intended purpose that they were created. Let's get back to that denial. What are we going to do about this denial? Well, always realize there's another step to appeal to. You can go all the way to the Supreme Court with this thing. But realize there are elements that have to be met to be found disabled. The first person to get denied, right, sits back and goes, how could this happen? It's all emotional. They're throwing up this, the emotion is just flowing from them. It's how could this happen? That's not how law works. And a lot of you guys think disability benefits are like this emotional, carnival ride where it just swings you around and then ultimately maybe you'll get found disabled and get off in a different lane. It's not like that. It's all based upon elements. It's all based upon a structured system of showing how bad you actually are. It's the 5-step sequential process for CDRs. It's the 8-step sequential process for kid claims. It's the 3-step sequential process. There's elements, and you've got to meet these elements. And if you don't meet, equal, or exceed these elements, then guess what? You're going to get denied, and you'll get denied over and over again. So the first thing I recommend to you is realize that it's a terrible, terrible thing that you got denied. I understand it. I get it. But with that said, your denial was usually the result of you not meeting the medical requirements or the vocational requirements. Okay? I didn't have enough quarters of coverage. I didn't have a prescription for a wheelchair. I didn't have 3 failed surgeries on my back. I wasn't in a mental facility for 2 weeks of every 4 months. Usually, you guys will not meet the actual, now here's something I want to point out right here. There's the actual elements of disability law, and then on top of that, there's the things that everybody just kind of practices. Let me give you an example of that. Element 5, the 5-step sequential process, the last element, the cleaver element. The statute basically gives us language for, what your knowledge base would be with learning new jobs in the national economy, right? That potentially we could say, well, if you can't do the job you once had, you might be able to do a grocery job or ticket taker job or a sign spinner job, whatever, right? Okay. However, here's the thing. In actual practice, right, we don't go by what the law really says. We just don't, if we're claiming a claim where you're over 60, we just don't even use element 5. We just don't use it. We don't, because at that age, are you likely to be able to go out and learn a new job? Maybe. People are living a lot longer nowadays. But for Social Security disability purposes, we say no. And that's just how we actually apply it. So there's a lot of things that you got to understand too. You got to learn what the actual rules and laws are, and then you've got to ask a disability attorney how they are actually applied. Because a lot of these things, the law says this, but we really do this, because this is what the law should be. And it works better this way, so we do that. And then everybody plays along. The government plays along, the disability attorneys play along, and the claimants either reap the benefit or the negative of it, depending on, which way it leans. Okay. So, your emotion. You want to go ahead and be angry and blame somebody. I'm going to say this and it's going to come off mean, but I constantly live in a world where when a computer goes down, I have to fix it. When a claim gets denied, I have to fix it. I constantly live in a world where I have to fix things. And by and through that, I'm constantly in a world where I have to learn how, the new thing that the firm is doing is we're actually refurbishing vintage trucks to put in Masonic events and, car shows and, what are they called? Parades and stuff like that. So I've got to learn how to, and I can weld now, but I now need to learn how to weld even better than I was doing before because my welds are crappy. They look like chicken poo all over the place. So my point to you is you should always understand that the reason something didn't happen is partially your fault because you should have tried, you should have learned, you should have done better. Just because you put your claim in a representative's hand or a caseworker's hand or one of those idiots that goes around the hospital and tries to sign people up, man, do they screw up claims bad. Just because you put your claim in somebody's hands or one of those big box firms that doesn't really work the claim, it doesn't mean it's going to actually be successful. I tell each one of my claimants, this is a relationship, okay? We live in the same house now. We are working towards getting you found disabled. We have to together do things. There are certain things that they have to do. There's certain things I have to do. I have to do motions and filings and recommend things to the claimant, train the claimant what to say. I have to do all of these different things, right? And that's kind of the bottom line here is that a lot of people don't realize that this should always be a relationship situation. If you've got a firm that never talks to you, never interacts with you, never does anything with you, first time you're meeting the attorney, and remember when I say meeting, I don't mean face to face. Like you don't need to physically touch the attorney to be like, oh wow, now I'm good. No, you need to be able to talk to the attorney over the phone. You don't have to physically see the attorney, you just have to interact with them. It's not a relationship thing where you just always have to be in front of that person to feel like you've touched and you're good to go and yada yada. You want to have a relationship with your attorney where you can talk to them, feed them information, they feed you information, they give you things to do, you work on things, they work on things. You want this with your attorney. Now the other problem with disability law is that most of these representatives are very busy because in order to make money doing this stuff, you have to have a ton of claimants in order to afford, and a lot of you guys don't think about this, but in order to afford the receptionist and the paralegal and the marketing and the advertising and the SEO and this and that, in order to afford the taxes and in order to afford all that stuff, right? It costs a lot of money, so we have to have a lot of claimants. That's why I usually call back claimants while I'm driving. Because the bottom line is that I can just set it up hands-free and then I can go ahead and interact with you guys and talk to you guys and feed you information. And frankly, my clients tend to usually like that because they get more time. I'm spending more time with them on the phone. I get to talk to them. We get to go deeper. It's not me just feeding and shoving information down their throat. They get to feed me stuff and we get to talk about a strategy and a plan. So they get more time and, while I'm driving, I get to be thinking, okay, what is unique about this claim that I could do using the statutes that are out there to try and win it. So if you did lose, going back to that denial, you want to find an attorney that you can integrate with, right? You're a mesh, you're a mat, and in that meshed up mat where you're like this, you want to be able to find somebody that you can really get along with. One way that I like people to think about it is, when they made super hit shows, things from Star Wars to Friends to even the new stuff, which is Marvel's Avengers and stuff like that. All of the actors mesh really well. They feel like they really genuinely know each other, that they're not just this, group of banded together, strapped together, random people. They all kind of interact well with each other. Okay, so when you have a friend and you get along with that friend and something about that person you just mesh well with, That's what you're looking for from your attorney, that meshing well scenario. So if you want to blame your attorney and you feel like they didn't do what they should have done, that's fine. Just go find another attorney. They're not going to take more money. They're just going to take, part of that 25% that the other attorney gets. And so you just got to find an attorney that's willing to share some of that 25% of the fee with. All right? So you want to make, you want to blame, you want to get angry, you want to be pissed off, you want to do all these things. Remember, it's partially your fault because you didn't take the time to learn about the stuff that's out there. Some of you guys are super homeless, you don't have access to the internet, you don't have access to a phone. I get it, that's fine. But a lot of you, you've got access to a computer, a smartphone, a tablet, and the internet. Get on there, learn as much as you can. So we've talked about learning, we've talked about the relationship you have with your representative, the person who's working to get you on disability benefits. We've talked about a lot of stuff here that you could be doing in order to basically do a better job at getting things done. All right, let's talk about some of the other features. Statements that you make to the SSA. I had one claimant one time who literally a couple of months before the hearing, and then they put his hearing back because he kicked himself off of the I-2-1-40 program, the expedited process program. This claimant called up the SSA and said that I advised him to go to the hospital for things that which he didn't believe were that bad, which were his main disabilities. What did this do to his claim? Well, he went in front of a judge. What was one of the big things they had? Court statement that he wasn't that bad. My arguments were pertaining to anxiety, depression, PTSD. They were also pertaining to IQ issues, things like that. His IQ was in the 60s/70s based upon a couple of tests. Realistically, at the end of the day, he probably should have been put into the 50s. I know you guys don't know how IQs work, but bottom line is the IQ wasn't enough in itself to go ahead and get a finding of disability. The toughest claimants that I get are the ones that I can't teach. What do I mean by that? I mean the ones that quite literally, their intelligence, their mental capacity is so low that you tell them something and they instantly forget it, or the worst ones are the ones that misconstrue it and try and figure out a new way that they can do it even better. Man, those are the ones who F it all up, and they F it up bad. And that's what happened here. He went to a hearing, got denied, and screwed it all up. And because of that, it was so mucked up from the statements he made on the phone that we couldn't take it to appeals counsel. So realize sometimes the statements you make a big difference in whether or not you'll be approved. Now, with that said, the 3368, the 3373, the 3369, the supplemental pain, supplemental anxiety, supplemental seizure, supplemental whatever forms that you complete. And I know that most of you don't read your ALJ denials, but if you were to, what you would realize is that, holy cannoli, a lot of the statements that you made on those initial forms are right there. They're right there. And a lot of them are god awful. Do not talk about your 4 cats, how you take care of your friend's 3 kids. And I understand if it's the truth, there's a better way that you can phrase it, When it's an emergency, you assist your friend by watching the children for a short period of time. Don't talk about how you've watched the children every Friday for extra cash under the table. If it's true and they ask you about it, you'll have to state that that's the truth. But, when it comes to this information, look, then you've got to ask yourself, am I really the disabled person that which I'm claiming that I am? Because when you say you take care of kids, man, you're feeding them, you're washing them, you're teaching them, you're doing a lot of stuff. So realize right up front that those denials that you get could be from the statements that you've made, okay? Next part. Statements of your friends, family, or just third-party statements about you. 3380s, supplemental third-party forms, these statements. You might have somebody who hates you, who submits something to the SSA that says, you're not really disabled, here's a video of you milking a cow, here's a video of you ice skating. Or maybe it's, you know, you put something on Facebook like, here's a video of them surfing with their back disorder. It happens. More than you think. Scrub your Facebook account. Don't give people the opportunity to submit things on you that could be potentially negative towards your disability account, because when they submit things, they put you in a very negative light. And even though they may not be the truth, they've usually got scraps of evidence that can get you to the point where it looks like it might be true, and that hurts you. So statements of third parties, okay, those are problematic. All right, watch what they say. Make sure that they put down the true disabled person at which you are onto that piece of paper. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more. We've gone over a bunch of things. Another topic of disability is, let's see, we've talked about representatives, we've talked about your statements, your friend's statements, who do we hate, what's wrong with the system. All right, let's talk about the next thing, which is when it comes down to your ability to complete tasks on time, right? A lot of you guys will sometimes leave sending in forms to the last moment. A lot of you guys will get things in right before they're due. Here's a little secret about how the system works. They're deciding things as you're submitting things, which means that by the time you submit something at the very last moment, it might not actually be considered. And if it might not actually be considered, then you're the punk who should have submitted it earlier. So that's another thing you should consider, is always try to get these things in as quickly as possible so that they're right up there, part of the elemental analysis, okay? Another thing that I just want to throw out there is traveling. You guys have a tendency to travel, right? You get out of the county, you go out of the state, you go on vacation, and then you come home and cry on Facebook about how you need disability benefits and how terrible life is. And then there's 15 pictures on your Facebook account of you standing at the Grand Canyon. You cannot get to some of these locations on the Grand Canyon without walking. Which means that they can use that as evidence against you to show that your claim that you can only walk 10 feet is total bull, when you walked 150 feet to get to a particular, picturesque spot. Oh, but I was on all my medications. So your medications fix your disabling conditions. Oh, not over an 8-hour workday, so then why don't you alter your medications to do that? And here we go. I hope this video has kind of explained to you some of the reasons that people get denied and what you should do with your emotions, which is take them in, do a self-assessment, understand where you're at, why you're angry, what's going on, and begin the process of figuring out how to actually win it. This is not an exercise of you doing it by yourself. This is not an exercise of you choosing a crappy representative. This is an exercise of you getting somebody who knows how to do this, some attorney that works this stuff all the time, that's all they do, and basically working with them to meet the elements. One of the first things you should do with your attorney is ask them, what are the elements of the listing that I'm most likely close to meeting, equal, or exceeding. Like that's if I didn't know that's how I handle a lot of my stuff too. If I'm going into a field for buying a house or buying this or doing that or whatever, first thing I say is, what are the elements for completing this properly, right? Most people don't know what they are, which blows my friggin' mind. They don't know what the elements are. Okay. Either way, my name is Attorney Walter Rudolph Hnot III. I hope I've kind of calmed you down emotionally when it comes to disability benefits and getting a denial. I hope all is well. I will catch you a little bit later. And if you want the most up-to-date information, a free consultation, or a custom video made about a particular topic, that's fine. Shoot me an email or give me a call, and we'll go from there. All right? Have an absolutely wonderful day, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.